Part of why I wanted to go live about this is to give some validation, hopefully, to those of you who grew up with narcissism and or have had a, hi Cape Town, a partner with narcissism, right? And to hopefully let you know even more that it was never about you. I know it can feel personal, and not that you're not hurt. You know, it's not to take away that, but it's never because you were fundamentally flawed. It's never about you. So why I wanted to go live today, this came from a conversation I just had with a dear client and a friend about, and she's also a practitioner. I'm leading her through a course for practitioners right now. It's about how, as the practitioner in the room, as the coach, whatever, when we have a client that triggers maybe that 12-year-old self, 5-year-old self, if we are not good with that part of us, if we still have a lot of glitchiness and a lot of yuck with that part of us, we will very likely play out that drama onto the client. So that's what we were talking about. And that just got me thinking, like, well, yeah, let's just go live and talk about that. Because a lot of who I've worked with over the years has been people who have severe narcissistic abuse wounds, right? So, and again, this is not just with narcissism, but you really do see this play out with narcissism. With narcissism, all the spewing you get at you about how you're not doing things right, just the barrage of comments that you hear, heard and unheard, right? Never ever about you. In fact, part of the hurt is that they're not really seeing you. That's a deeper down wounding that they're just not even seeing. They are playing out what they hate about themselves. Just picture our faces with projector screens, and whatever drama, unresolved stuff they are having with their inner parts is just being projected onto your face and being played out. And if you're here, you're interested in conscious relationship, right? So taking such fierce responsibility for yourself, that means to heal and therefore end the cycle. We have to be completely responsible when we do this to other people. Because we all do it. We've all done it. So it's not shaming ourselves for that. It's just a natural human mechanism. That's what happens. Our body is so interested in healing. It so badly wants to heal. It will always just poke you on the shoulder like, here's a thing that needs to be healed right now. Can you pay attention to me? And sometimes how it gets our attention is that we bark at somebody and we get to say, ooh, I wonder what that was about. What part of me might I be projecting onto that other person? Is this making sense? It's a cue for us to go within. The body and your parts, they always wanted to be initiated into healing. Healing is the thing that the body wants to do. It doesn't want to stay stuck in woundedness. So you have all these little clues, and what commonly happens is we get so tripped up by shame. So when I start having these conversations and these explorations with my clients, it can so easily get into a shame spiral. All the things times in your life where you did that to your partner, blah, blah, blah. There's a difference between taking full responsibility and just shaming yourself for days, weeks, months, years on end. Because that shame is just going to keep you stuck. It's just a mechanism to keep you from healing. There's no need to go back and take inventory of all the times that you did it. You have to be able to forgive yourself. Because we all do it. That's just a way that your inner parts were trying to get your attention. Is this making sense so far? Let me know. Raise your hand if this is making sense to you. And please ask questions. If you have them, share your insights. What is coming up for you? Okay, I really want to help people understand this stuff. What we typically see, what's different about narcissism is there's no accountability. Or like that's a big, big difference that we see. There's no self-inventory. There's no looking in. Like the very unhealed narcissist is not looking within. So you are told it is because of you. If you hadn't blah, then I wouldn't have blah. So we get to just see what parts of ourselves are getting played out with other people. And this is really important, so let me say this too. I mentioned this in a post weeks ago, but it's always worth bringing back up. That's not to say somebody's just not being a jerk. Okay? If somebody is being in their assholeness, okay, I'm not going to call anybody an asshole because we're not inherently an asshole, but if they're in their assholeness, then that behavior is not okay, it's unsafe, and you get to draw a boundary with that person. Okay, it can be both. If you are just fighting with something in your life, or if you're fighting with somebody, or there's just something, if there's that one person, there's just something about them that you just use that as a cue. Could that be playing out? You know, I can't say if that's true or not for you. Only you can. You are your own healer. Does that make sense? So just take responsibility and use it as a cue. Like, ooh, what do they trigger in me? Because likely, there's very likely an aspect of them that reminds you of an aspect of you that you possibly hate. How's this feeling? Let me know. Does anybody have questions? Does anybody want to join in, hop on for, if you want to ask me a question in real life? So you can hit the request to join. I don't know if I don't want to say this wrong. Marley, if you're still on here, do you want to hop on live and ask a question? Just let me know if you're still here. Like walking around trying to stay in the shade. It's warm. How's this feeling to you? Does that make sense to you? Questions? Anything? Such an important concept. It's just, again, I worked with so many people with such deep narcissistic wounds. And as a child, if you grew up in it, we're very egocentric as children. That's natural. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to go there. But anything said to you, we do make it about ourselves. It's part of brain development. So unfortunately, what does get imprinted is, oh, there is something wrong with me. Oh, I should have done better for mom or dad, or I am fundamentally flawed, or like, what is wrong with me? When really it was never about you. Again, remember what I said earlier. Some of the deeper hurt here usually is that they're not actually seeing you. They are just projecting their own unresolved stuff. And even for them, that is a big way that their healing mechanisms are knocking on their door, but we all have a sovereign choice. They are just not choosing to take it. And painstakingly, what that means is they keep projecting it onto you. But you, if you're here, if you're watching this, this means you're very interested in healing the cycle. So we get to really grieve that, for one. If it happened to you, grieve it. You are so worthy of grieving it. And there's no timeline on grief. But that grief is going to be a mechanism for you to actually change it. You know, and I'll answer this question real quick. But let me say this first. You know what gets in the way of healing these patterns? And why your narcissistic parent didn't do it is because they didn't grieve that it was done to them. Grieving fucking hurts. It fucking sucks. It sucks to acknowledge that this happened to you and there's no good reason for it. Hurts. It's very vulnerable. It hurts. So your empowered action that you get to take is that you get to grieve. What happened to you, that is going to be the vehicle for you to stop the cycle. Okay, a couple questions here. Great question. How do you stay calm when you're triggered? Ooh, yes, because we are going to get triggered. The object of healing is not so that we won't ever be triggered again. It's that we're okay when we are. You get that? Don't try to just avoid triggers. Then you're just not living your life, and it's not even possible. It's, can we be cool? Can we be fine when it does happen? The first words that pop into my head is just nervous system stuff. If you get triggered, maybe, I teach a lot of this in my self-soothing type courses. Self-soothe through the 5 senses. Sight, go out, maybe you, if you're in a situation with somebody, like in real time, maybe you go excuse yourself. Maybe you go plant your feet. Like right now, I'm on the ground and I'm kind of swaying back and forth. This activates my root chakra, lets my body know I'm okay. Wiggle my fingers and my toes. Deep breathing, put my hand on my chest, on my stomach. Deep breathe. Find the part in your body that's hurting. Find the part in your body that's hurting. Acknowledge that part. I see you. I hear you. Okay, don't worry about fixing it. Don't fix. Just acknowledge. You're hurting. Okay, I see you. Breathe. Feet in ground. Look at something beautiful or picture something beautiful in your mind. Get out some essential oils. Smell those. You're simultaneously calming your nerves, literally. And you're getting into your wise parent self and attuning to that part of you that's hurt. Because if you're triggered, it's likely your 5-year-old part, or your 10-year-old part, or your 12-year-old part, or your 15-year-old part, or your 24-year-old part. Acknowledge that part of you. And then and it depends on how far you've done this work, but when you then are at a point where you can feel back in your adult self, like, okay, you may have not resolved the issue, but you feel you're not buzzy, then you've worked through it. Does that make sense? I usually teach that. I take clients through a very long process to do that, but essentially just soothe your nervous system through the 5 senses. Acknowledge the part of you that's hurting. And then as your wise adult self, be like, okay, I've got this now. I've got this now. When I've been over to see family, sometimes I will excuse myself and make it as quiet as I can and go scream into a pillow. I let that inner hurt child of me that's just been activated, scream it out. You do what you need to do. Go to take a walk. So good. So Sammy, 16K, let me know if that answers your question, if you're still here. Can there be a link between narcissism and self-sabotage? Okay, that face I just made is like, oh my God, yes. Of course, yes. And, we're not here to figure out and diagnose the narcissist, okay, because here's something we all might not like to hear. They have the same traumas. They just protected themselves a little bit differently. So we also don't want to polarize against them either. Now, draw boundaries with the person with narcissism, okay? Yes, their behavior is not okay. It's hurtful. Of course, yes. But we don't want to repeat the cycle by being like, what's wrong with them? Why are they the way they are? So a note of caution before I answer the question. We don't want to get into diagnosing the narcissist and figuring them out, because the victims of narcissism, that's an easy trap to get into. It's another mechanism to actually just escape your own bodily experience. So just a word of caution on that. But let me answer the question. My gosh, yes. My gosh, yes. Narcissists live a very sad life. It's incredibly sad because they just live in an inner world of chaos and pain. all the time. The actions that you see them doing is just them at their best attempt to soothe that pain. Like, their attachment wounds run really deep, really, really deep. So damn deep. Okay, so hopefully this does inspire some compassion, but you can love them from afar. Okay. But yes, self-sabotage. Self-sabotage often happens when... Okay, let me see if I can explain this and not be so tangential about it quickly. We each have a thermostat setting for how good we can feel, right? Based on our family of origin. Like, I grew up in a family of origin where our thermostat setting was struggle. We struggle. The Grahams, that's my maiden name, we struggle. We're always in some kind of struggle. So that's the nervous system setting I picked up. So self-sabotage comes in to kind of knock us down a peg when we're starting to feel too good. It comes in to bring us back into that thermostat setting that we're used to. So that's one way that it plays out. It's just a way to stay in the same repetitive cycle. Right? So, of course, they wouldn't acknowledge that if they're still stuck in the cycle themselves and they're not willing to put in the work. But for you all here, when it comes to your thermostat setting, like I just mentioned, of course you can heal that. The body's designed to heal. The body loves to heal. It just needs to be given a chance. I have dramatically increased my thermostat setting of how good I will allow myself to feel, and I keep working on that. I will never be done working on that. But people with narcissists, yeah, I think the point I want to drive home is that it's a very sad, painful life, despite appearances. Okay, appearances are nothing. That's what they want you to believe. But it's just based on their own pain. Let me know if that answered your question at least well enough. Any others? Let's see, just reading comments here. Yeah, for sure, Sammy. So, can't help myself but react sometimes. So for one thing, when you react to triggers, just remember that you're human. I've been doing my own personal work for about 12 to 13 years. Do I still react? Oh my God, yeah. Healing doesn't come because you've just mastered the skills. It sounds weird. It's like a little bit of that, but what helps you do that is self-compassion. That's the vehicle for mastering the skills. And mastering, don't get that caught up in perfection either. Okay, the more compassion you have for yourself, healing comes naturally from that. Healing comes from love. That's why we don't want to polarize against anybody either, right? Healing comes from love. So the more you extend that love to yourself, healing just happens. Like all the tools you learn in therapy or coaching or whatever you've done take hold when you start loving yourself. I would have clients for years on end and not making much progress, and that's not a slight on them at all. It's more just a reflection of how just much they just beat themselves up. It's not that they didn't know the skills. So we don't want your reactions to go away either. These are the same reactions that activate when you're in traffic and you almost get hit by a car. We don't want those are all connected, so we don't want those to go away. You have a nervous system. You have a nervous system, so when you react, it's just told you that potential danger. You need to be attuned to that. Because yes, it might be your sloppy mom one day, but the next day it might be a dangerous person. Okay, so it's not about not reacting. It's about, this is why it's longer work, right? This is why I usually teach this in a longer container, but I'm happy to share it with you just because I think it's helpful. The longer you work on your own nervous system, the more natural it is for you to your reaction times to be less, if that makes sense. When they need to be. The more your wise discernment is online, the more you do your inner work, the more you attend to your nervous system, your wise adult stays online more. So you can discern a little bit more quickly each time, like, okay, my reaction here is not necessary. But I wouldn't make the goal to never react. That's just in your nervous system. You do need that. And remember, shame is just a mechanism. It's a very tricky mechanism, just like self-sabotage. It's a form of self-sabotage. Okay? To keep your setting low. If you can tangle yourself up in shame for days and months and years on end, what do you get to not do? Heal. So much of shame, and I've worked with clients in shame and my own shame for a decade. And what is clear and clearer to me all the time is that it mainly serves as a distraction. Okay. Let's see. Oh, hey there. Okay, so getting to your comment now. My ex-girlfriend blamed me constantly for being a narcissist. I feel I am myself, dealing with some hurt in a child mechanism. How to tell if you... Thank you so much for your question. How do I tell if I'm a narcissist? I'm starting to smile, but I'll tell you why. It's because if you're asking that question, you're either likely not. If you're in the narcissistic cycle, you're not asking that question, or you're on the road to healing. Of course, I can't discern that for you if you are, but asking the question, you're so fucking good. Just keep going. Just keep going. I will say too that narcissist gets thrown around too much where it actually doesn't apply. Okay, some people throw that term around when this person just held a boundary with them or said no to them, or everybody's traumas, everybody's inner child stuff, blah. Like, it gets thrown around where it shouldn't. So I will say that, but I promise you, if you're asking the question, again, you're either likely not, or you're on the road to healing. Okay, one of my coaches that I had last year, such a deep healer, I really admire and respect this person, is a recovering narcissist. When I have a podcast shooting for next year, I get to put in some things in place before that. But I'm so interested to have him to share his story because he's done so much deep work, and I was in a 10-week container with him. I know he has. Part of what I don't love about some containers that teach on narcissism is the polarization. They are made out to be monsters when that's the opposite of what's being true. That is just continuing the wound because you're polarizing. Okay, you all know what that means. Like, you're shaming them just like they've done to you. That's just going to perpetuate the cycle. Okay, narcissism has very sad startings. It means that you were so unseen, you were so unattended to, that you are stuck in this place of I only see me, only I exist for survival. Like, that little child had to so grasp on to me. It's all attachment based and trying to get those attachment needs met. It's stuck in place. And it turns out to be a way that it ends up hurting people. But people with codependency do the same thing. I'm a recovering codependent, like, big time. We have our own way of hurting people, right? So one is not a monster. It's all trauma. To answer your question, I'm trying to remember what your name. Is it Tom? I know that's what your profile looks like, your name, but let me know if that helps, if that answers your question at all. Absolutely. I just think it's really beautiful asking the self-reflective questions. You are absolutely on the right path. All it takes is, with any healing journey, no matter where you start on it, from more the narcissist end or from more of the codependency end, which actually those are all kind of the same. I'm not going to get into that. Wherever you are with your woundings, as long as you are just taking responsibility for yourself. There's this aspect of perfection and unattainableness that gets applied to healing that should not be there. Excuse me. Healing doesn't mean perfect. Healing doesn't mean we'll never get triggered again. Healing doesn't mean we won't hurt other people again. You will. You're human. We don't live in a vacuum. It just means you are willing to take responsibility for yourself. You're willing to look in. Looking in is some of the hardest work that we can do. Taking responsibility is some of the hardest work we can do. That's why people don't choose to do it. That's why people with narcissism stay in it. Is because looking in is fucking hard. Sitting with guilt and moving through guilt of the things that you've done, the pain of what was not given to you, that's hard. Just start taking responsibility for yourself. That's all it's required. And then bam, you're in a healthy space, okay? Because we're all just doing our best every day. You are so welcome. Yes. Oh my God, healing comes from love. Can self-love be enough? Self-love is more than enough. Self-love is more than enough. Self-love is divine. When you are in self-love, you are directly connected to the divine. And you will just start to, if you're truly in it, the universe won't help but be able to deliver that right back to you. Okay, law of attraction people out here, that you're going to just magnetize it naturally. You won't even have to fucking try, because you are just in that love vibration. Okay, like a lot of the containers I teach are about relationships, because it's what I love. It's my bread and butter, okay? But when I actually get into the nuts and bolts of what it takes, it's more about self-love. I just don't market it that way. Okay, it has to come from the self. Self-love, more than enough. That's the most powerful thing you can ever do, is forgive and love yourself truly. And then I promise you all, I promise, healing will not be able to help itself. Healing will not be able to help itself, because love is the vehicle. Love is the, what's another word that I've been looking for? It's the vehicle, lubricant, it's something, it's the medicine. It's everything. Okay, shame is what keeps us from that. Shame is what lowers our thermostat setting back to struggle. And I'm not allowed to feel this good. Yes, you are allowed to feel this good. It's your birthright to feel this good. Promise. Promise, promise, promise. My goodness, anything else? Thomas, okay, good. You are so welcome, Thomas. Thanks for asking. This has been so good. This has been so, so good. I love connecting with you all. I feel your energy. I really do. Sometimes there's no words, right? So I'm working on, like, if there's no words, there's just no words. So it's fine. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here with me. I really want to get back to doing these more regularly, because I miss you all. I miss this. Such good conversation happens. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? I'm so glad. I think it's Kayla, right? Yeah. Oh, it's so good to see you pop in. I love getting to know you all too, because I recognize you, and I just love you all. I just get a little emotional. Like, I just do. Thank you for being here. You're so welcome. Hey, Jen. This will be reposted, likely more like tomorrow or the next day, but it will be. So you can watch the replay if you need. Free masterclass coming up next Sunday, right? 4 ways to prep your nervous system for the one. And you can take that if you're single, it doesn't matter. It's just really good relationship, nervous system stuff. You're so welcome. Oh, thanks so much for being here. Please keep connecting, keep commenting, keep telling me what you want to learn more about. Your synergy and me doing this with you is what helps us be so alive. I appreciate you. I see you. You're on the exact right track. Breathe in love, breathe out perfectionism. It's a survival mechanism. You don't need anymore. As a recovering perfectionist, I can promise you that. Yay! Yes, the replay will be posted in like a day or two. So, okay. I love you all. Bye for now. See you soon.